Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Staying Sweet, the podcast. I have a very exciting guest today joining me on the sofas. It's Lillie Bernie from the Glitter Store. Please introduce yourself. Tell me a bit about you.
Hello, thanks for having me. I am Lillie and I have a business called The Glitter Store where I turn people's photos into magical, sparkly art pieces, and yeah, that's really it.
So tell me about your magic touch, because actually I found you during the 2020 pandemic. We all remember that era very, very well. And I remember seeing your content pop up on my feed. I hadn't seen anything like it. I was really inspired. It was just something really different and imaginative. And I feel like lockdown was like quite an interesting time for people to kind of ease into their creativity, allow that to kind of flow into their life. How did you get to the point where you were creating those pieces of art?
So it was a really actually long process for me, because it wasn't just like, oh, I had an idea and let's do it. It was like a series of events that led on to me starting this business, which I began as a model from about the age of 14, and went to university, studied journalism, and was going to be a TV presenter. And then I decided it wasn't for me after graduating and continued modelling. And then I started doing abstract paintings because I had done that at school, and my dad was like, you should keep painting, you should do that. So I did that and was making these abstract paintings in a studio and was selling them, but nothing that was regular enough to rely on for an income, as most artists can understand. And then I was going to galleries for representation, and they were telling me, like, no one's going to take you seriously because you're not a real artist. Like, you haven't been to university and studied art. You need to go back to university and do a master's and all of this. And I was like, you know what? I'm actually going to make art out of modeling photos. Like, this is, why should somebody tell me that I can't do something? Like, actually being a model has like brought me to this point in my life, and that is what I want to make art on. So I made these magical diamond girls where I covered girls in diamond paint and blew it up and painted on top of it and gave it to one of the girls who shot it for me. And my best friend saw it and was like, oh, like, that looks so cool. Like, could you do that for me in my wedding photo? So I made it for her on her wedding picture, made it all glittery and sparkly, and she loved it. And then lockdown happened, and I was like, no one's going to be buying like a random artist, like abstract painting. Maybe I should start doing this as a business. So I gifted to 5 influencers who I kind of knew, and made them glitter prints for them, and then set up a website. And one of the girls that posted, she posted it, and I had like 20 orders that day.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that one of those influencers was how I found you.
Probably.
Probably. So would you say that, like, when you are in that startup phase, reaching out to creators and people with those audiences was integral to that first push of success?
Definitely. I mean, I still think it's so integral to my business, and the reach that you can get from an influencer, even compared to like a Facebook or an Instagram ad, is so much better, because the audience is so much more targeted. You're not spending like so much money trying to figure out the audience. So for somebody who's starting a business, influencers is the best way forward. However, you have to make sure that they're the right influencer for you. Because I gave to an influencer who had like 500,000 followers. She was my first, and nothing happened. And it really made me doubt the product. I was like, this is not good. I don't think anyone's going to want it. And I left that idea for a bit.
That's so interesting that someone with such a huge audience didn't actually target anyone in a sense.
Yeah, because you don't know who, listen, I'm not saying her followers were fake, but who knows what, or they could have been all men who just like didn't want a glittered picture.
Definitely.
So
glittery gym photo or something.
So it makes sense, but also I was like, yeah, so it's important to find the right influencer.
And when you were on that journey initially, because what you've created is so niche, was there anyone that you were looking at to kind of not compare yourself to, but just to kind of give you an understanding of how to do things or how to do business? Because I feel like when you're starting something from scratch, it's hard to know like what is right and what journey to take. How did you take the driver's seat in that situation and make those decisions?
I think that I was really lucky because I didn't go into this business thinking as a job I want a business. I went into this like just by mistake. So everything I was doing was like for the first time. There was no pressure on like this is the business. However, I did say to my sister, because I was like, if this idea doesn't work, I actually don't know what I'm going to do, because I had been trying so many different things that like nothing was really working. And I just was like, if this doesn't work, I'm really struggling to think of like how I can make my art for everybody and like do something creative and work for myself. That was the pressure for me, rather than like I want a business. So I think I was lucky that I had like the innocence and like just also like because it was during COVID, there was actually no pressure. It was just like I was lucky. Like I do feel very lucky to be doing it at that time. It's like if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Like obviously I want it to work, but it wasn't like how do I do this? I just sort of was like, right, I guess I need to make a website. I'll make the website and figure out, even now, like every step. Even now I'm like learning about VAT. It's like, I don't know about VAT.
Oh gosh, me too.
But like you figure it out when the time comes. Like
True.
if I don't, every step like slowly, rather than like thinking about the big picture. I think that would be my best advice.
Definitely. And did you find the idea of, like you said when you mentioned lockdown was a very creative time and the pressure was off. Do you think that a lot of things were birthed out of that because we were in that sort of hobby mindset versus I have to make this a business? How did you know that you did need to take it like super seriously, and was it the success first or was it the passion for what you were doing? Because I feel like when people were doing, a lot of people were starting things or trying things in lockdown. I tried a few little things and I saw lots of friends try different projects, and candle businesses just came out of nowhere.
Yeah, true. That's very true, actually.
But lots of them didn't survive like past lockdown. What do you think what was that?
It was doing really well, and I was like, I had been not really earning. I was like working in a gym as like front of house like just before we went into lockdown. And also, even when you do a modeling job, like, yes, it's a lot of money, like, all in one go. But that if you're not working for, like, another week or another 2 weeks, you don't have, like, you literally have to wait 3 months for your payment to come in. So then I started seeing all this money and I was like, oh, my God, like I hadn't been able to even, like, move around my own money, like, in the same way before. So it gave me that freedom of, like, oh, my God, like, I can actually, like, do things without having to wait for somebody else to, like, pay me. And, and then I was just, like, it was doing, like, well, and I thought that it had a lot more potential. So I think that's what made me be like, okay, like, let's take this seriously.
And as you were like a niche business, how did you measure, aside from like sales picking up and things, how did you measure your success? Like, what were you looking at? Were you growing on social media? Like, with someone starting out, what can they look at within their business that can determine their success?
I definitely think like growth in sales.
Okay.
Because Instagram followers mean nothing if no one's buying anything, unless you want to be an influencer and sell for other people. But
that's very true.
Which then it does. But even then, if your followers aren't buying from you, then you're still not going to get brand deals because no one's going to be purchasing them. So it doesn't actually matter about the followers. It's about who's following you, I would say. Also, when I started noticing like different celebrities liking it, that was really, really exciting.
Can you name some? Who's been your like OMG, almost like shocking for engagement?
The first ever shocking thing was when Kyle from The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills
iconic
bought a print for Vanessa Bryant for the anniversary of Kobe Bryant dying, which was like, what the hell, that Vanessa Bryant's going to have a picture of Kobe Bryant that I made for her in their house. And she posted it on Instagram, which was amazing. She didn't tag me, but she got
I actually remember seeing that.
Do you?
I do.
Yeah, that was cool.
That. So I follow Kyle Richards on Instagram. I love Real Housewives, guys. Big Real Housewives fan.
Me too. So yeah, that was really cool. But they bought it as a gift. So like, I get why they didn't tag me. It was fine. But it was more just like great to see it on Instagram. And most recently was Sophia Richie. When I saw Sophia Richie repost my story, I was like, oh my God, like
this is iconic.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, so that was great. Who else?
Has there been anyone on your radar that you think, they would be the ideal client?
Yeah, I mean, Molly May is my dream.
Oh my gosh.
People like Maura bought for Molly May. A brand bought twice for Molly May. Yet, I saw it in the background of a picture of Tommy, and I was like, just post it.
Oh my gosh.
So frustrating. Yes. And I'm like, maybe
she actually has an audience that are hyper engaged.
Yeah, Molly May's the dream.
She is the dream. And I think a lot of people overlook her in a way that like she's very like on a level of relatability, even though her lifestyle isn't as much now, but she's definitely a creator that a lot of people want to access and tap into. And it's interesting that you sort of suggest her as your top person.
I think she is my like dream client. Like her everything, and her audience is perfect. Her engagement's amazing. Yeah, I think she'd be an amazing person to
So if you were a brand or business that was wanting to identify that like dream collab or kind of navigate the influencer marketing sort of strategy, what would you say like the main criteria? Like you said, following isn't like a big deal breaker.
I guess it depends what your product is, but you basically want to use an influencer who would have your product. That's the first thing. You'll also have to like, I've gifted to so many people and it's done nothing. And that doesn't mean the product's bad. It just means that you need somebody else. And it's very difficult to tell like who is good and who is not. And so I don't think you should beat yourself up about it if it doesn't do anything. Just don't pay anyone if you're a small business. Like I would never pay somebody. Like you have no idea what the reaction's going to be. And like if you're a small business, you don't have the money to be paying influencers. It's like if they like the product, they'll take it. If they don't, they won't. And you don't want them to have it if they don't like it anyway.
Definitely. And with some of the other elements that go into marketing your product, if we're talking about products in particular, what can someone be doing if their budget is limited, if they are a startup? How can they be shooting? What's worked sort of well for you and been successful in terms of the way that you shoot your products? Like what's really worked?
Good lighting. It doesn't matter really. Well, it does kind of for me, but like because if I'm just shooting the prints, it doesn't have to be in daylight. But like where I'm working at the moment, in my studio, it's in a basement, and I don't enjoy that. So like I try and shoot like genuinely like in other people's houses. I would take like some of my stuff. I once had to make a video and I didn't like the aesthetic in my house because it was too dark, so I took it to my friend's house, and like that's okay. Like use all of your resources to shoot. Like it doesn't have to be done in your house. The lighting is so important. What else?
Like what are your views on like video? Obviously there's things like TikTok trends and jumping on that. Is that something that you think fits product-based businesses?
Yeah,
or?
I think it does. I just think you've got to be like not cringe with it. Like you don't have to do like I'd never do, not that I'm doing it all right. Like I'm not doing it all right. I've got so much to do, but I would never do like a lip sync video. If it
with your product.
Or like holding it. I don't know, like I do like hold it, but not like singing and holding it. Like I don't know, do what feels natural to you. Like I feel natural like being in my studio, like being like cute with the product, and also like showing how it's made, and like that feels natural to me. And I think it's important to do that because you need to stay consistent. and also trying different things out, and not like, I get upset when like you spend so long on a video and it does so bad, and you're like, why is there like 200 views on TikTok at this video, but then you're like, whatever, next video.
You keep that sort of momentum going.
Yeah.
So as someone who's identified and sort of navigated those highs and lows of owning a business, starting a business, what has it taught you about yourself, and what can others sort of take from your own experience? So like what lessons have you learned really in owning your own business?
The biggest lesson is just resilience. Like, there is nothing that will test your resilience like having a small business.
Yes.
It's so hard, and so you have to have, I think, like, the reason why I've been able to get to this point is by having people around me who are like supportive and push you in those times that you're like, I don't want to do this anymore, because everyone has those times, trust me.
We all do.
I literally sat once like crying, like during maybe last January, when obviously no one's buying anything, being like, my business is over. And then like the next week it was like I did a discount code and it was all fine, and I was like, okay, it's not
People just needed a sale.
Yeah. January sale.
Those times are really hard, aren't they? Like those slower periods. Yeah. How do you push through? What's you mentioned discounting, or like having those like marketing tips and tricks up your sleeve. Like, events have been really good for you. Tell me more about what you've been doing with your new venture into events.
Like, this is like totally a new idea that I had, which actually came from doing Instagram and Facebook ads, where I was spending so much money on them and I wasn't enjoying it, because it was like,
it's expensive.
It's really expensive. It feels like you're literally just throwing money down the drain. You don't see anything. I don't think, to be honest, I really do want to get it right and work with the right person, but for me at this point, I think you should only do that when you actually have like an investor, and like you're not spending your money,
yes,
because you're too attached to it, 100%. And it needs to be spent in a big amount. Does that make sense?
It needs to be business money.
Yeah,
because when you're a startup, it's almost like every penny is your penny.
Yeah,
and you do feel it more, don't you?
Yeah,
and
totally.
You think, I can't let this go. There's like that resistance.
Yeah, and I became like really annoying to the guy I was working with, because I was like trying to understand every single thing he was doing, and it is not a flow. And so I was like, right, I'm not going to do this. So how do I get to more people without being online, which was to do events. And then I was like, oh my God, I should do glitter photo booths.
Genius.
Where I can glitter people's photos right then and there, which, to be honest, I had like I still like, it's quite weird for me to be working in front of people now. It's like something I need to get used to.
Yeah, you do that behind the scenes in your own time, or like maybe in your pajamas, like whenever you kind of feel up to it. How do you work on the spot? Because I find events really fascinating, particularly blogger and like influencer events. They are a very strange situation at the best of times. So like, how have you navigated that sort of being in the spotlight? I know I was like filming you whilst you were
it's weird. It's very weird, to be honest. Like, I don't know how comfortable I am with it yet, and that's something that I have to think about, because is it like, I know that this is going to be a really great step for my business, but as a person, it's like, do I want to be doing that? I don't know. And I find that really tricky, because I'm so in it, and like, it's annoying for me if that I've created a business which involves me actually like doing the work, rather than like, sometimes I'm like, oh, it would be great to have an online business where you can work anywhere and like you don't have to physically be making it.
Of course.
Not that I love what I do, but it's difficult to then detach yourself.
Also harder to scale, because in some way you're the not in some way, you are the artist, so the expectation is you're going to be there creating, and people are going to be observing that. So that's very interesting. It's an interesting business model, but it also works so well because it's such a clever concept, and I think people love photography. They love that aspect of being able to take something home. Like, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was such a great idea, because you do have photo booths, and I keep all my little photo booth things, but that's something that I'd want to get like framed.
Yeah.
Or it becomes much more special when the work's been put in. So there's definitely value in it, and I think it's such a great concept.
Thank you.
But yeah, tell me more about how you're going to sort of show up at those events, and will you keep that concept quite similar? Or?
Yeah, like it's something I've been thinking about like since that event where we were together, but I don't know. I'm in two minds, because I can either make it a lot more mainstream, which I don't know if I want to do, which is having it at weddings and like bat mitzvahs, bar mitzvahs, engagement parties, which I think it will still do really well, or just being selective, which also I'm kind of more, I don't know. This is like, and these are the sort of things as a business you have to think about, where you want or see your business going. And sometimes I think it's not about the money. Like, I don't know if I I don't know if I think I'm at this point, I'm going to be more choosy with it and then see how it develops, rather than like just doing everyone's events. Like, I don't think I want to do that.
Yeah, I think that's like the best way to go, actually, because I think when you try and do everything, you kind of lose your identity and your personal brand. So do you think that sort of, for any advice for anyone out there, would you say that the best thing to do is like really think before you act in
100%.
those instances?
100%. And I think that until you really, like, for example, with the answer I just gave about like, I don't really know if I want to do everyone's or if I want to do just a small selection. Like, I'm not going to make every inquiry that comes to me at the moment. I'm really like taking the time to think about, I'm in a position where this is an extra thing in my business. So I don't need to take, I mean, obviously more money is great, but like I can think about it clearly for the longevity rather than like the short-term success, more about the long-term success. So, and I don't want, my prints are like, they're not cheap, and I want to keep it at that sort of level rather than like devaluing it. And that's how I'm thinking about it, rather than like, quick, let's just make all this money now.
I think as well with like the types of people that you've already been working with, you've kind of hit the jackpot straight away, and like it's important to kind of hold that level of exclusivity almost to the product. And I think with art, that's very much the case. Not everyone can afford the art, but that's the beauty of it. So it's like striking that balance, isn't it?
And I want it, like, at the end of the day, I feel like I'm an artist. Yes, I have a business, but primarily I'm an artist. And when someone's booking me for a photo booth, like, I'm not just like, I want to be the artist. I don't want to be like just like something that you can just like buy online. And that's what I'm keeping like mind, like my brand and like what I value. And I think for everybody who's thinking about directions to go in, that's how they should think.
Definitely. Super interesting. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
And chatting all things glitter. I will keep everything in the description, guys, so you can check out. I'm guessing you're taking orders for Christmas.
Taking orders for Christmas.
Yeah, such an exciting time. Have you got any other things coming up towards the end of the year?
Yeah, I've got like a few more events, which is cool. And just like, literally, I'm going to be at the Spirit of Christmas.
Very exciting.
Yeah, it's my first trade show.
That's amazing.
Which will be cool. So I'm just getting ready for that, and like a few different Christmas fairs, and then just all online for the rest of the year.
Perfect. So I will link everything below. Please check out the Glitter Store for all your gifts and all your treats, basically. I feel like I need to do a big order for lots of people.
Aww.
So I'll be doing that after this. But thank you so much, guys, for listening and watching. Please leave a rate and review, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.